This is the Revo hubless bicycle, the world's worst e-bike. I borrowed this one from a viewer, and like other Revos, it had a laundry list of problems. The plastic body was falling apart, it had a self-destruct mode which makes it take off on its own, and half the features rely on a smartphone app that no longer functions, leaving things like the wheel lock and even the headlights completely bricked. But in that last video, we wrote up a work order for every problem, and since then, I've been grinding late into the night trying to save this rare, legendary pile of garbage. And after an astonishing amount of work, Brian's Revo just might be the best, worst bike in the world. And I'm about to return it to him and show him all the new things it can do.
Oh, dude, what?
Now, some issues like the loose crank and that vulnerable USB port were easy to fix, but what do you do about a hodgepodge of missing features that only work with a now defunct app? Well, I didn't really know what I was going to do about that either, but I did know just where to start. I knew that to find anything useful, we'd need to dig down to the bike's main computer, the brain. But the last time I took a Revo apart with Pat, it was an autopsy. This time, it was surgery. Brian lent this bike to me on the assumption I'd be making it better, and so I would have to put this bike back together. So this side of the plastic body has these holes, and then it attaches to the other side with riv nuts, but those riv nuts are just broken free, spinning inside the frame, and so I'm trying them all. Some of them come out, most of them don't, and we're just gonna have to kind of break those loose and then reattach them before we put it back together, hopefully better than they were attached. This is insane. Those crumbling plastic panels were a problem that I would need to handle later. I was in search of that brain, and all wires led to the motor casing in the middle.
Wow. That is something else.
That's where I found both a rat's nest and a treasure trove bundled into one.
This is what everything looks like when you just take the case off. So the ESC is down here. It's tucked under a little piece of metal there. You can see those are the main power wires going to it. And then these are the brushless motor wires. And they start out black on this side. They plug in and go up there. And then that's the circuit board doing everything else, I would imagine. We're gonna have to poke around there and really get a handle on what we're looking at.
To remove that circuit board, I had to unplug 14 harnesses, but shockingly, they were all numbered on both ends, making my job a whole lot easier.
See, this is 14, and it says 14 on the other side, so I can disconnect these. Not worry.
When I finally got the board out and had a good look at it, I was honestly astonished at what I saw.
Wait a minute. This is all labeled? In English?
To be completely sure, the premise of this bike is silly, and questionable design decisions were made, but whoever did the electrical engineering cared a lot about that circuit board. But it could also speak to the half-baked nature of the Revo, as some of those markings on the circuit board would also make it easier to exploit. It's like they labeled everything for their own use during development and just left it there in the final version so that people like me could poke around. So I made some connections and used a 4-conductor cable so I could reinstall the board and maintain access. Then I set up a makeshift laboratory right next to the bike, complete with a breadboard and serial interface. I started poking around some software called CoolTerm. It took some trial and error, but eventually I made a breakthrough.
I'm gonna just disconnect the battery. Wait, something just... Hold on, I'm gonna plug the battery back in here. Something's on the screen.
I was getting real data from the board, including the actual word Revo.
Wait, it actually says Revo ready there. There's actually like text. What?
But the data wasn't very useful. I wasn't getting any information I could actually use to improve the bike.
We're getting somewhere. What about the throttle? Nothing.
My progress had kind of stalled, but that's when I remembered something crucial. Everything on the Revo relies on an app. Seeing your current assist level, speed, operating the lights, the wheel lock, it all ended up right here and presumably worked through Bluetooth. I had thought of that. Before taking the bike apart, I tried to establish a Bluetooth connection, but kept failing no matter what I tried. Even a year ago, with a half-working app, I had the same problem, and now I know exactly why. See, it turns out every Revo shipped with the same passcode, which is 6 ones. But that changes the second you pair it with the app. And the only way to reset it is the app. And so we can be sure that very few, if any, Revo owners have their Bluetooth passcode. But I had access to the BLE chip on the circuit board. That's the Bluetooth chip. At first, it didn't tell me anything useful, but then I tried pairing my computer to the Revo with the incorrect code.
Okay, check it out. If I try to connect to the Revo with Bluetooth, I actually get an output over here because we're at the Bluetooth controller. So I'll type in a password code that doesn't work. And I get more outputs here.
Of course, the connection failed, but the output had a 6-digit number in it. And you'll never believe what it was.
69, 69, 69.
And we're connected to it?
So when you originally download the app, it changes the Bluetooth key, and of course nobody writes it down. You might not even know what it is, and the only way to reset it is with the app that doesn't exist. But we read the data directly off the Bluetooth controller, and when we connected, we saw the real Bluetooth key. And it really was 69, 69, 69.
As it turns out, that 6-digit string was the working Bluetooth passcode, and the BLE chip just handed it to me in plain text. That's a pretty big security hole. If you leave your Revo outside a coffee shop and someone takes it apart, solders 2 wires to the circuit board, and uses a serial interface to negotiate a UART connection at 115,200 baud, they can get your Bluetooth code. Now that's an unlikely exploit, and indeed, it took me a little bit of trial and error to figure it out. But with a working Bluetooth connection to this bike, I started poking around to try and get something useful.
Every time I hit a button on the bike, see, that's assist level up, that's assist level down, down, down. Let's see what happens if we hit the throttle. Oh!
We're getting data! With my laptop next to the bike, I used terminal to log output from the Bluetooth controller. Change pedal assist, stuff appears on the screen. Squeeze the brake, we see more. Any state change updates a register. I kept testing more features and logging the outputs for everything from the throttle to the kickstand lock, and very quickly, I had some of the bike mapped out. But the next discovery is where it gets really interesting. I found an old build of the Revo Android app on the internet, and I let Claude loose on it, unpacking it and searching for strings that looked like our outputs. And it was like the Rosetta Stone. For example, set headlight on was in close proximity to C14. C, as in command. This command should turn on the front light. All right, I'll do you one better. All I have to do is change the 4 to a 5, and it should turn the light off. And that means all my commands are correct here. Instantly! By the end of the day, I was sending commands for things you can't even do with physical buttons, like turning that headlight on and off, and even activating the kickstand servo. I had actual protocol and a table of things we could command or monitor. But why would I need that? This is sometimes referred to as a CYD. It stands for cheap yellow display. It's a microcontroller with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and various connections like UART, and you can use it to make anything you want. And in this case, it would be the screen that every Revo should have come with in the first place. Now, when asking Brian about what he really wanted, he mentioned a screen, but he was probably envisioning a stock eBike screen like you would get with a kit, and while I could probably get one working, it would be limited. The Revo has a wheel lock, blinkers, a badge light, and a host of other features that we need a custom solution for. And with this little CYD, there's kind of no limit to what you can do. But that's where Claude really had to step in and write the code for me. I can't do everything. And after Claude did its thing, I had a crude proof of concept that could monitor and control the Revo like a real e-bike screen.
Here, look, there's a light. On, off. On, off.
With a mostly working screen I could polish up later, I moved on to the rest of that daunting work order. Now, as it turns out, messing with those commands led me to a discovery that would knock one of the biggest problems off the list.
Do you hear that noise? Let me show you what's making that noise. It's this thing.
In the last video, that ringing sound annoyed me so much, I kept just pulling the battery out and tossing it, totally forgetting this was someone else's bike. God, that freaking whining noise. Sorry, Brian. But that speaks to how irritating it was. The entire time I worked on that bike, I had no idea the dumb little light on the front was powered by a tiny, completely unnecessary transformer. I knew just how to fix it.
It's this. The EL transformer, electroluminescent. This is not an LED. This is actually high voltage and needs that transformer, as if things were not complicated enough. And listen. Okay, I guess this EL pad is kind of cool, but it's overcomplicated and introduces that whining sound. And so, we'll take this head badge that normally has this behind it, and we will introduce this little guy, which is an LED. All I gotta do is glue this behind it, and we have a working light off of just straight 12 volts, which I can easily get from the same exact circuit. All I have to do is cut that little transformer out, connect the wires together, and it's working with a plug and everything. This is awesome. This is perhaps one of the best improvements that we're gonna make on this bike.
So with that badge light and that dumb noise ironed out, I could start tidying up my wires, put the motor casing back together, and then knock out the other issues one by one. But I need to get more of the bike back together, and there was one really big issue standing in my way. One I had been dreading from the start. Those cracked plastic panels were Brian's biggest complaint, and you could see how his packing tape and duct tape did a better job than the screws the bike came with. The problem with this brittle clamshell is that the brass inserts the screws go into just crack loose immediately. Pat and I noticed the same thing on the Revo we took apart, but I need to actually put this one back together. So I started by extracting all those brass inserts, and then I took some measurements. My plan was to create a 3D printed adapter I could glue over the broken mounting holes. So I got to printing a whole bunch of those adapters and got to gluing. And then the next morning after the glue set, I was ready to put that Revo back together.
It's a new day. I've got my Revo shirt on because today we're gonna put the panels back on. Man, what a beautiful thing. Look at these. Wow, actually, I can't even budge that thing. This stuff is no joke.
With that clamshell coming together nicely, I gotta address the other problems like the terrible brakes, which I upgraded the pads on. This bike also had a case of the whiskey grips, and cleaning them didn't seem to help them from moving, so I replaced those too.
Yeah, there we go.
As you remember, there were a variety of cracked panels and a hole in the rear wheel shroud. That was a tricky one, but I ended up covering it with some really sturdy yellow reflective tape. It even matched what was already on both wheels. Also, the kickstand was all bent out of shape and loose, so I attached it properly using plenty of Loctite. And when all was said and done, I made sure it lined up the bike when it was stowed.
That's a little better.
I then cleaned up the plastic body, especially where residue from tape was left over from holding it together. And of course, I added band-aids anywhere there were hairline cracks that would need time to heal. And with that, I had knocked out nearly everything on the work order, and it was time to put on the finishing touches. Now, early on when I was experimenting with the screen, I had printed a rough enclosure for testing and devised a mount that worked with the star nut and the steer tube. That stayed, but the actual shroud for the screen was never meant to be the final version. So I got to modeling something a little more fitting for Brian's Revo. And then I got to 3D printing it. I went way overkill on the filament I printed this on, as this stuff will definitely outlast this plastic clamshell. But why not? The screen's the centerpiece, and it was the fruits of my labor, which I only showed you a fraction of. But that was the final touch, and with the bike fully assembled and functional, it was time to deliver it to Brian. But not before I show you exactly what we did here. Introducing the Revo hubless bicycle Pro Max Ultra. First, I want to show you this screen, which is actually a little bit better than a cheap yellow display. It's faster, it's more responsive, and it costs an astronomical $22. It was worth it. As you can see, it shows speed, battery level, and a few other goodies. And as you may remember, this bike has blinkers. This screen actually shows them when you move this little switch left and right, and you can see them with arrows on the screen. Before, you probably have to guess whether or not the blinkers are on. Unless it's at night and you can see them reflecting off of something, it's not like they make a little tick, tick, tick sound. This is hilarious. It looks just like it would in a car. You can also operate the headlights with this little icon over here, and it'll even show you a change in the state by changing the icon color. And that blue Benno badge that we changed with an LED, you can operate that too with the little B button. Now, another thing we couldn't see before this screen was what level of pedal assist the bike was in. Pretty much all e-bikes show this, even with a simple little indicator. Now, Brian's Revo will display the assist level from Eco to Turbo. It's also a sad reality that if the assist is on at all, your Revo can just run away from you if you start pushing it. I added a warning. If the pedal assist is on, runaway Revo mode is engaged, and it tells you right on the screen. And that's the most likely scenario for self-destruct mode. You just forget the pedal assist is on and you start pushing the bikes, the cranks move, and it just takes off. But there's another safety issue. You may remember the catapulting kickstand, which deploys backwards, turning the bike into a catapult. Not only did I spend some time securing that kickstand correctly, we added a warning here, so you know you have a catapulting kickstand. When the kickstand is stowed, your catapult is active, and it tells you, but that sensor that tells us the catapult is active, it actually serves another purpose. When you put the kickstand down, it enables the lock. The lock not only locks the kickstand from going back up, but it also locks the back wheel so it can't move. Yes, a feature that was long totally inaccessible to Brian is now easier than ever for him to use. And while I didn't get GPS or the fingerprint scanner working, this is actually pretty cool, and it kind of turns the bike off. You may remember there's no way to turn off this Revo, and that's because it just kind of sleeps when it's locked. And although I did consider installing a big old power switch, I decided it's probably better to just take the battery out during long-term storage. This isn't exactly a daily driver. But there's more to show you than just the features on the screen. Let's talk about the brakes, which seem to reveal another dirty secret that I missed. You may remember how badly the brakes worked in my initial test. And in that first video, I said they were like what you'd find on a kid's bike decades ago. But I was wrong. These are dual pivot caliper brakes, which should provide ample power, and they do. But what confused me was the brake pads, which look like something you'd find on an early 70s beach cruiser. So I changed them out with newer brake pads. I even ground them down to get them to clear the plastic clamshell, and as it turns out, they work dramatically better. Except for one thing. I tried everything. I tried towing in the pads, sanding, you name it. They make that noise no matter what, and I strongly suspect they did for the engineers working on it. And that's why they purposely chose the worst, hardest, most ineffective brake pads on planet Earth. There's no other reason they would have used those. But I'm gonna have to reinstall those old pads for Brian because I don't think he's gonna want all that noise. The bike is noisy enough as it is. But I did try to address the safety issue, at least for people standing in front of the speeding Revo. If you squeeze the brakes for longer than 1 second, it'll actually flash the headlights and that Benno logo in sort of a pattern to... I know, it's stupid. It's stupid, but I tried. Now, there were several other issues on this bike. We did improve that plastic clamshell tremendously, and it even feels more secure, but multiple times I had also mentioned the power. This bike can barely make it up even the most mellow grades, despite being rated at 750 watts, the upper limit for a Class 2 e-bike in the USA. And so just to be sure, I flashed the motor controller and adjusted the settings myself. And the bike is now a lot more powerful. Now the top speed is the same because I kept it that way, but the increase in torque is dramatic. So why did the engineers nerf the Revo? Maybe it's because of the brakes, maybe some other safety reason, or maybe if you really push this thing up a steep hill for long enough, you'll smoke it. We may never know, but Brian is experienced enough with e-bikes to use his own judgment. Gunning it for a quick climb every so often shouldn't hurt anything. I saw the gears, I saw the motor. This bike is actually pretty substantial. And on that note, I have a different opinion of it after spending so much time with it. I still think the Revo is a dumb idea. I still think there's no way to make it good. But if we put this dumb clamshell aside and the reliance on the app and all the safety issues which probably popped up when they were in deep, this took some impressive engineering to make. Someone tried really hard to bring this dumb idea to fruition, at least deep within the Revo's innards. But as you move outwards from that circuit board to all the bike stuff, like the brakes and the cranks and the airless tires, you can tell they had no experience with actual bicycles. But the Revo hubless bicycle is a legendary pile of trash, and I can't wait to see what Brian thinks of his now that I've transformed it. Brian's gonna be here any second. I'm gonna get his reaction just seeing the Revo and discovering things. I left it locked and I'm gonna tell him the passcode so he can have the whole experience. Yeah, it's right over here.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, come on over here. Come on, check it out.
Point anything out? Or you just want me to?
No, just check it out.
Oh, dude, what?
Try tapping it.
No, it's touchscreen?
Yes. But look at what happens.
All right, what's the code?
The code's 6969.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Right?
And listen carefully. Did you hear the servo?
I heard a little beep, yeah.
It unlocked the kickstand in the rear wheel. It actually locks it.
What is awesome? We got different grips, I feel that right away.
Yes, the whiskey grips I had to do something about. You got your Benno logo at the front.
Oh, that is bright.
Yes, but you can turn the headlight on and off. You can turn the Benno logo on and off. Now try the signals.
Okay. So we got signals on the dash.
Signals on the dash.
And it works.
And actually, if the bike is locked and you try to move it, the alarm goes off.
It has an alarm, or you?
It has an alarm. There it goes.
I heard it.
Now it's locked. Okay.
I heard it locked.
Yeah.
I see lights flashing now.
Yeah, so it's that
And it's
little
beeping.
beeping sound from the circuit board.
Maiden voyage on the new, improved Revo. I could tell the power right away as soon as I zipped through the parking lot. Definitely upgrade on the power, so you're getting the full 750 out of it. Impressive. I'm most impressed with the display screen and that whole setup. I mean, it looks amazing, like it's meant to be there. All the broken plastics seem repaired and they're not falling off everywhere. That's great. And there's no noise. There's no high-pitched screaming, humming. Definite upgrade. This is the best Revo that exists now, by far. The best worst bike ever.
Well, enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for trusting me with your Revo. So it's time for me to say goodbye to this thing, but Brian gave me this shirt. I'm an official Revo mechanic. But I can't have millions of people emailing me, asking me how to do that, and so I put it all on GitHub for the 5 of you who actually want to build your own screen. This is a super cool, unique bike. It just sucks that everybody who got theirs discovered all the same problems we did, and that so many people paid for their Revos and got stiffed. But I still think it's legendary, and those who have them can hopefully benefit from this video and learn something to keep their Revos going. I'm excited to see what other people who actually know what they're doing can figure out with this thing. Maybe one of you can get the fingerprint scanner running. And speaking of which, I didn't even show you half the things I did, and so I'm gonna leave it to Brian on his Citizen Cycle YouTube channel to make another video going over everything he's found. I learned a ton doing this, and although the Revo is not that much fun to ride, it's super fun to work on, and so I made a Revo shirt. It's under my Revo shirt. So thanks for tinkering with me today in the shop. I hope you learned something. If you didn't, I hope you at least found this video entertaining. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.